The year is 2077. A quiet hum of anxiety underscored the once vibrant pulse of human endeavor. Humanity had reached for the stars, dreaming of boundless frontiers. But now, its collective gaze was reluctantly, inevitably, pulled back to a slowly, undeniably, dimming Earth. A creeping inertia, a subtle, pervasive decay of power and progress, had begun to settle over the world like a fine, suffocating dust. It wasn't a cataclysm, not an apocalypse in the traditional sense. It was a slow fade, an insidious erosion they called the dimming. Dr. Eris Thorne, a brilliant astrophysicist whose peers had once lauded him as visionary, now found himself a reclusive custodian of fading echoes. He felt the dimming in the chill of his unheated observatory, in the stutter of his archaic data processors. His once state-of-the-art mountaintop facility, a former beacon of discovery, now struggled for every precious watt of consistent power. Tonight, like countless nights before, he was sifting through cosmic detritus, chasing ghosts in the noisy data streams. He searched for faint anomalies, whispers from the void that official channels, starved of funding and optimism, had long dismissed as censor, static, or budget-cut mirage. His persistence was a quiet rebellion against the encroaching apathy. The city far below, a sprawling constellation of once bright light, now hummed a dissonant, faltering lullaby of failing infrastructure and rationed energy. Up here, only the soft, rhythmic click of his heavily modified keyboard and the strained, intermittent whir of aging backup generators broke the profound mountain silence. Even the wind outside seemed to carry a mournful sigh. He ran another diagnostic on the primary deep space array, its sensitivity compromised by years of neglect and cannibalized parts. His algorithms, honed over decades, were designed to find needles in galactic haystacks. Suddenly, a new pattern began to coalesce on his primary monitor, fighting through layers of interference. It was faint, almost imperceptible at first, like a distant heartbeat struggling to be heard. Aris leaned closer, his breath fogging in the frigid air, every nerve ending alive. His gloved hand instinctively moved to enhance the signal, his movements precise despite the tremor of anticipation. This was no solar flare, its signature too clean, not a distant pulsar, its rhythm too complex. The signal repeated, a sophisticated sequence of pulses and pauses, too ordered, too mathematically deliberate to be a product of natural cosmic phenomena. It was a whisper from the void, articulate and cold, cutting through the universe's ambient noise. His own heart began to pound against his ribs, a forgotten, frantic rhythm, a counterpoint to the alien pulse on the screen. For years, decades even, he had searched for something, anything, to break the deepening silence of the cosmos, to prove humanity wasn't utterly alone in its slow decline. This felt different from all the false alarms, all the hopeful misinterpretations. Could this truly be it, the culmination of a lifetime's solitary vigil? Or was it just another cruel phantom, a sophisticated ghost in the machine, born of failing equipment and the desperate, wishful thinking of a forgotten scientist? He had to be sure. He couldn't afford another disappointment. Miles away, nestled in a forgotten valley, the decommissioned Ares V flight training facility lay dormant. Inside its cavernous, echoing hangar, Commander Eva Rostova, Calcine Nova, stared at a different kind of void. The cold, empty cockpit of the Odyssey, a mothballed Ares-class starhopper. She was a pilot without a sky, an explorer whose charts were now just faded lines on a useless map. The dimming's tightening grip on resources, on ambition, on hope, had grounded her and countless others like her. Her dreams of charting new systems, of feeling the pull of unknown stars, had faded, along with the once reliable city lights. Now, she mostly kept the ghosts company and tried to stop the old bird from completely rusting away. A sudden, sharp crackle from the cum unit on her belt shattered the hangar's tomb-like silence. A rare, almost shocking intrusion. It was Thorne. Dr. Aris Thorne. His voice, usually a carefully modulated, academic monotone, was raw, tight, with an unfamiliar, almost frantic urgency. It was unnerving. Eva, startled from her reverie, might have thought to offer a customary jest about his pet theories, a familiar shield against his occasional, wilder postulations. But Thorne's strained words, cutting through the heavy static, allowed no room for such familiar banter. He implored her to come to the observatory, his voice cracking with the assertion that this time, it was real, truly real. A jolt, unwelcome and unfamiliar, shot through Eva. Skepticism, her constant companion in these dim years, warred with a sudden, sharp flicker of long-dormant hope. Eris Thorn, the eccentric hermit of Mount Kairos, did not feign urgency unless the sky itself was literally falling. Or perhaps, as his frantic tone now wildly suggested, unless it was finally, impossibly, sending a message. Without a word, a decision made in an instant, she turned. Her path led out of the hangar and towards the only functioning vehicle she still maintained. The old engine coughed to life, a familiar growl in the oppressive silence, ready to chase a sliver of impossible hope. Back at the Kairos Observatory, Aris had managed to reroute auxiliary power, stabilizing the main array's delicate sensors just as the signal began to subtly shift its modulation. It was stronger now, less like a whisper, more like a focused, deliberate transmission. The clarity was astonishing. He ran rapid triangulation algorithms, his mind racing faster than the processors. The origin point was chillingly precise. Deep space, unfathomably far, well beyond their local galactic arm, in a sector previously thought to be empty void, impossibly far for any known natural phenomenon to transmit with such clarity. The observatory's ancient airlock hissed open, and Eva Rostova strode in, bringing with her the scent of cold night air and engine oil. She shook off the pervasive chill, her expression a carefully constructed mask of professional skepticism, though a keen observer might note the tension in her shoulders. Her gaze swept the chaotic room, landing on Aris, then immediately on the main screen, where the impossible signal danced. Aris, a frantic silhouette, didn't need to speak. His entire being radiated a mixture of terror and elation as he gestured wildly towards the glowing display. Eva moved with the unhurried grace of a seasoned pilot, her keen eyes, accustomed to deciphering complex instrument readouts, immediately locking onto the main display. She scanned the cascading data streams, the intricate waveforms, the impossible energy signature. Her carefully maintained skepticism slowly, visibly, began to erode, replaced by a dawning, incredulous, almost fearful. Her shoulders, initially squared and challenging, softened slightly as the sheer weight of what she was witnessing settled upon her. The complexity, the undeniable structure. This was no natural phenomenon. Aris watched her, his breath held, seeing his own stunned disbelief mirrored in the subtle shift of her posture. The signal pulsed between them, a silent testament. It was structured intelligently. It possessed a syntax, a recursion. It was, unmistakably, a form of language. They worked for what felt like an eternity, the decaying city far below forgotten, the oppressive weight of the dimming momentarily irrelevant, banished by the incandescent glow of the alien message. The signal pulsed, a steady, rhythmic heartbeat from an unknown, impossibly distant sender, a beacon in the cosmic night. It contained layers, nested within layers, like an intricate, multidimensional puzzle, universal mathematical constants. Pi, the golden ratio presented with an elegant, undeniable clarity, sequences of prime numbers, far into ranges that would take their best remaining supercomputers days to verify. Then, what appeared to be astonishingly detailed astronomical charts of an unknown star system, complete with orbital paths and planetary classifications, all utterly alien. And then, woven through it all, a recurring motif, a unique, complex symbol, something that made the hairs on the back of Ava's neck stand on end, a primal recognition of something utterly other. Ava's gloved finger pointed towards it on the screen, a silent question posed to Eris, who could only shake his head, his own expression a mix of awe and profound unease. It felt pivotal, like an invitation, or perhaps a dire warning. As the first true rays of dawn began to pierce the polluted gray-orange sky, painting the observatory in stark, cold light, the signal suddenly, dramatically, changed. It surged, one final, incredibly powerful multi-layered burst, encoding an immense packet of data in milliseconds, and then, as abruptly as it began, silence, utter, complete, deafening silence, from the source. The carrier wave vanished. The abrupt absence of the signal was almost as shocking as its arrival. Aris reached out a hand, steadying himself on a console, his gaze fixed on the dead screen. Eva stood motionless, the weight of the moment pressing down, but they had it. They had the message, every last bit. The first confirmed, undeniable message from another intelligence in the entire fraught history of humankind. And it had arrived at a time when humanity was arguably at its lowest least prepared, and perhaps most desperately in need of something beyond itself, a lifeline, or a premonition of an even greater darkness to come.